I'd like to call the Certificate of Appropriateness Committee's March 24th meeting to order. I see that it's 5 p.m. Can we have a call of the roll? Is that your thing, Colette?
Sure, I will. I'll start with you, Curtis Casefang.
I am here.
John Reese.
I am here.
Sandy Feaster.
Here.
Travis Bailey.
Here.
And Vershay Height is running late and will be joining us as soon as she can.
Okay. Well, again, welcome everybody to the March 24th meeting of the Raleigh Historic Districts Commission Certificate of Appropriateness Committee. My name is Curtis Casefang. I am subbing for Vershay Height until she is able to join us. From our roll call, I noticed that we have a presence of a quorum even with her absence, which is good. And now into the pre-meeting stuff. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are conducting this meeting using a remote electronic platform. I would ask for your patience today as we proceed because of that, and also because I am subbing for Vershay, who is our normal chair. There may be some slight delays as we transition between speakers, participants, and presentations. The Certificate of Appropriateness Committee is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by the North Carolina General Statutes and the city's Unified Development Ordinance. We conduct evidentiary hearings on applications for certificates of appropriateness. Before we begin the evidentiary hearings on today's agenda, I'd like to provide some important information about steps taken to ensure each party's due process rights are protected as we proceed in this remote platform. First, today's meeting will be conducted in accordance with the enacted statutes in Session Law 2020-3, which allow for remote meetings and quasi-judicial hearings during declarations of emergency. Second, each applicant on today's agenda was notified. Boy, I just scrolled and it leapt. Was notified before being placed on the agenda that this meeting will be conducted using a remote electronic platform. Every applicant on today's agenda has consented to the committee conducting the evidentiary hearing on their request using this remote platform. We will also confirm today at the start of each evidentiary hearing that the participants in the evidentiary hearing consent to the matter proceeding in this remote platform. If there are any objections to the matter proceeding in this remote platform, the case will be continued. Third, notice of this meeting was provided to the applicant and public in numerous ways, well beyond legal requirements for noticing this meeting and the evidentiary hearing. Specifically, notice of today's evidentiary hearings were also, blah, blah, blah. I did it again. Sorry. Notice that, that's what's going on. Notice that today's evidentiary hearings were provided by mail to all the property owners and tenants within 100 feet of each subject property. Each notice letter notified the recipient of the remote meeting platform. Letters also stated to contact the city immediately if there are any objections to the evidentiary hearing for which notice was sent, or to the remote meeting platform. No case is proceeding today in which the city has been contacted by an applicant, participant, or other individual with an objection to the case or the matter being heard in this remote meeting platform. Notice was also provided by posting notice on the site of each property, publishing notice in the newspaper, and providing notice on the city's website. Notices for today's meeting contained information about the means by which the public can access and view the remote meeting as well as the meeting occurs. Fourth, any individual wishing to participate in today's evidentiary hearings was required to sign up prior to the meeting to participate. Information about this sign-up requirement, along with the information about how to sign up to participate, was included in the mailed notice letters sent to each property owner and the tenant within 100 feet of the subject property. This information was also included on the RHDC city website, among other information. A link to the website was included in all methods of notice. All individuals participating in today's evidentiary hearings were also required to submit a copy of any presentation, document, exhibit, or other material they wish to submit at the evidentiary hearing prior to today's meeting All materials that the city received from the participants in today's cases, as well as a copy of the staff reports and presentations, were posted online in board docs prior to this meeting. All materials that will be discussed today can be viewed at any time during today's meeting by visiting raleighNC.gov/agendas and selecting the RHDC Certificate of Appropriateness Committee. Finally, all individuals who signed up to participate in an evidentiary hearing on today's agenda, as well as all city staff participants, were emailed a witness oath form prior to today's meeting. Any individual planning to testify or submit evidence in an evidentiary hearing was notified that they must sign and return the oath form prior to today's meeting. We will also reaffirm everyone's oath on the record at today's meeting. RHDC commissioners are city council appointed members. They are residents of historic districts, architects, intern architects, architectural consultants, and contractors, attorneys and historians, urban planners, and historic preservationists. Now, I'd like to introduce my fellow commissioners here. Let's start off with Sandy Feaster. Sandy,
Hi,
tell us about yourself.
Sandy Feaster. I have a master's degree in historic preservation and served on a historic commission for a different municipality.
Okay. John Reese.
My name is John Reese. I am an architect here in Raleigh. I am also a resident of the Glenwood, Brooklyn neighborhood.
Travis Bailey.
Travis Bailey. I am a fifth-year RHDC commissioner. I've been on COA off and on for about 3 of those years. I am a social media marketing professional, and I live in a house in the Boylan Heights Historic District.
And I'm Curtis Casefang. I'm a member of the commission in my first 2-year term, halfway through my first 2-year term at this point. I was, prior to this, chair of the commission for 4 years, a member of the COA for 4 years. That was about 10 years ago. In the intervening 10 years, I was on the Design Review Advisory Committee. In my other life, I'm an architectural consultant. I specialize in helping architects and people design theaters and concert halls throughout the US and Canada. Moving on, I'd like to also introduce Francis Rasberry, our attorney.
Thank you, Curtis. Francis Rasberry. I'm an attorney with a Raleigh law firm, and I'm legal counsel to the COA committee.
And to introduce the staff, I see Tanya is not with us. Colette, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Colette Kinane. I am a staff member with the Historic Preservation Unit. I have a master's degree in historic preservation and have been with the city for about 4 years.
And Nicole, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nicole. I'm a recent alum of UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm the minutes clerk taker. And I just started with the city a few months ago, so I'm really excited to be here. And sorry if I make any mistakes or sound kind of uncouth when I speak.
And Ira Mabel, please introduce yourself.
Hello, Ira Mabel from Planning Development. I'm just here to run the board.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion to waive the reading of the minutes? I see John Reese has made the motion.
Second.
Second by Sandy. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt those minutes for the record?
So moved.
I hear a motion from Travis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. I see myself, Sandy, John Reese. I can't see Travis. Are you raising your hand?
It's raised.
Okay, so that would be an anonymous adoption. Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Minor work applications. Staff, tell us about what we've seen. I see we've done 12 since the last meeting. What else can you tell us?
That is correct. There have been 12.
Okay. We're now ready to hear the new applications.
Curtis,
Yes.
I'm sorry, do we have to approve the agenda?
No, actually, that's the next step.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that reminder.
Sorry about that.
No, I appreciate it. In addition to what we spoke about before in terms of notice and everything else, each commission has received a copy of each application, staff reports, and were to have visited each property. Staff reports were made public, and were to have visited each property. Staff reports were made publicly available with the agenda. And now I'm wondering if I can have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. John Reese seconded. All in favor, please raise your hands. That is unanimous adoption. Thank you very much. And scrolling on down. I have to say, I very much admire Vishé's grace in doing this. Okay, we are now ready to conduct an evidentiary hearing phase of this meeting. Evidentiary hearings are conducted in quasi-judicial format. During the hearing, we receive evidence. Yes? Sorry. We hear evidence to determine that proposed changes are not incongruous with the special character of the historic district or the historic property. We review this evidence in light of the design guidelines referenced in city ordinance. Each application is heard in the same way. The quasi-judicial format of the hearings requires that we be impartial. The written staff reports were made available to us, the applicants, and the public at the same time. If any of us had reason to discuss specific details of an application before today, we will ask to be excused from the hearing on that application. There is no time limit on testimony, but repetition is discouraged. Now, affirmations. Because of the quasi-judicial format of our hearings, that is, the commission hears evidence and then judges whether the change is not incongruous, we are required by North Carolina to affirm or swear persons that speak before the commission and offer evidence. Although all and affirmation forms have been signed previously, all speakers will be sworn and affirmed at the beginning of each case. Staff will be sworn or affirmed now for all of the cases on the agenda. Raz will call each commission member by name, please, and conduct the affirmation. Is that correct, or should I be doing the affirming, Raz?
Curtis, I don't believe I have the authority to.
Okay.
I think the chair will have to take on that.
Well, the chair's doing that then. Colette, you're the staff member. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give on today's matter, on today's agenda, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you're muted.
Is this Colette? Yeah.
Yep. Is that a yes?
Yes. Could you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Okay. And now we're going to move on to stepping through the cases according to the agenda. Pulling up the agenda. We have 3 cases to hear here in apparently reverse address order. The first one up is COA 009-2022. 816 Brooklyn Street in the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic District. Is there anybody here to speak to this case?
Yes, good afternoon, Acting Commissioner Case-Fang. This is Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners.
Well, welcome, Worth.
Thank you. And a question for the commission and the commission's attorney. We have these 3 cases. They're all related and they're all owned by common ownership. Would you prefer us to run through the presentations of all three and then discuss all three and decide all three, or would you rather have me present for 816 discussion, vote, and then move forward with each subsequent case?
Raz, are there any issues to consolidating them into one group?
My thought on that is that since these are separate properties and we do have separate facts, distinctively different facts as to each property, I think it would probably be better practice to call the three cases in turn rather than to try to consolidate all of the issues. Now, because they are all demolition cases and many of the facts are quite similar or the same, it might not be necessary to repeat much of the content. But I do think it would be a better practice to have these cases decided individually, since each would have to have its own separate decision and its own separate findings and conclusions. That's my recommendation.
And that's what we will do. And I assume in the interest of efficiency, though, if Worth wishes to refer to a presentation happening that was done previously on the case before, we can include that by reference. Yes?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So we'll get our efficiency that way. Okay. First off, are there any conflicts of interest in this case, the 816 Brooklyn Street? John Reese.
I will say that I live in the Glenwood, Brooklyn neighborhood. I am about 2 blocks from these properties. I have been contacted by several neighbors in the neighborhood simply as a point of interest. I have not shared any information with them. I have not commented one way or the other to them. I have simply heard their concerns. So I don't know if that disqualifies me. I do think that I have the ability to hear this case with objectiveness. The rest is up to you.
Hey, does anybody have an objection to John staying on this case to hear this case? Hearing no objection, I think you're going to stay with us, John. Thank you. Now, affirmation. To speak on this case, Worth, are you the only person who will be speaking, or will you have somebody else in the mix?
So I will be the only one proactively speaking and giving the presentation. Also joining today's meeting are Stephen Bird, who is the managing member of Brooklyn Street LLC, the property owner, as well as Russ Nelson, president of RJN Building Co., who can answer any questions to the findings within the homes. So if you'd like to have them swear in as well, we could do that. Okay.
Well, I think that would make sense, just so that we're ready in case there's something to be spoken of. And Raz, I assume that these affirmations can carry forward to the following 2 cases too. Yes.
Yes. Just note for the record that the witnesses have been previously sworn or affirmed, and that would be fine.
Okay.
Curtis, while you're swearing in, there's also a neighbor signed up to speak who can be sworn at the same time.
And that neighbor is?
Omar Bashi,
Okay.
who is present.
I wish I could see those names on the screen here. Okay, and process-wise, do I affirm everybody as a group, or do we do one at a time? I'm sorry.
In the past few meetings, I think Verche has read the statement and then called each person individually to respond.
Okay. Okay, here we go. First off, I'm going to ask you all to both confirm and assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures. And I ask you do you solemnly swear or affirm that each testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Worth Mills, please.
I do.
Okay. Stephen Bird.
I do.
Okay. Russ Nelson.
I do.
Omar Bashi.
I do.
Thank you very much. Before you speak, okay, something I skipped over, let me just do. Worth, I'm going to ask each of you to state your name and address for the record. Worth Mills, please.
Worth Mills, 4509 Creedmoor Road, Suite 302, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27612.
Stephen Bird.
Stephen Bird, 1714 Brooks Avenue, Raleigh, NC 27607.
Russ Nelson.
Russ Nelson, 2727 Anderson Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27608.
And Omar Bashi.
Omar Bashi, 817 Brooklyn Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27605.
Okay. Raz, do you want to insert the stuff from the bar, the ruling from the bar? Or no?
Of course, I don't think that will be necessary. The applicants are represented by counsel. Nothing I need to add.
Okay. Colette, do you want to make the presentation on 816 Brooklyn Street?
I would love to. Wait one moment while I pull up the presentation. All right, are you seeing my screen?
You are visible.
Perfect. So our first case this evening is COA 0009 2022 for 816 Brooklyn Street, which is in the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic District. The nature of the request is to demolish the house and front porch steps, remove the driveway, remove retaining wall, remove tree, and remove landscaping. This is a view of the structure from Brooklyn Street. We're going to go around the house here, somewhat to the south, the rear facade, and the other facade that you can't quite get a good view of because of this fence here. And again, a view from the opposite side on Brooklyn Street. The staff concerns are you drawing discrepancies and the documentation of the structure. And as mentioned, the applicant did provide a presentation.
Okay. And in support, Mr. Mills, would you like to make a presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ira, can you pull that up for me, please?
Hold on one second.
Okay, thanks, Colette. All right, thank you very much. So as I mentioned, my name is Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners. This is a request, as Colette mentioned, to demolish the existing structure along with the driveway and the retaining wall and tree adjacent to it. Broadly speaking, given the makeup of the rest of this block on which this home and the other two homes sit, coupled with the lack of architectural detail on each home compared with many others within the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic Overlay District, we request that the committee grant these or this COA to allow Mr. Bird to move forward with demolition permits. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the 816 Brooklyn Street parcel highlighted. As I mentioned, Mr. Bird's LLC owns the three properties, 814, 812, and 810 Brooklyn Street, immediately east of this lot towards the Clay Street intersection. And I'll note as well that these four lots are the only four lots within this block that are bounded by St. Mary Street, Clay Street, and Brooklyn Street that are a part of the Glenwood Brooklyn Historical Overlay District. The rest of the block includes single-family homes and a 4-story apartment building known as 800 St. Mary's Street, immediately west of the 816 Brooklyn Street lot. And that apartment building completed construction in 2020. The lack of the historical overlay on the single-family homes, coupled with the new apartment building next door, differentiate these 4 lots from the rest of those within the Glenwood Brooklyn HOD, and we believe support redevelopment of these 4 lots. Next slide, please. So this slide shows 816 Brooklyn Street from the Brooklyn Street right-of-way. Please note the proximity of that apartment building to the shared boundary line. This home is a 1-story Victorian with vinyl siding and a AAA gable roof, which was built in 1909, and it was deemed a contributing structure to the Glenwood Brooklyn district. Fairly straightforward facade with a porch supported by 4 wood posts. Next slide, please. Then here's another side view of 816 Brooklyn Street. Also note the balconies on the apartment that currently look into the lot and to the house. Next slide. Here is the opposite view, or excuse me, here is a side view of 816 Brooklyn. Again, you can get a better sense of the front porch and the concrete slab on which it sits. Next slide. And then here's a rear view in which you can see a wooden porch on the rear and the eastern side of the home. Next slide. So here we have a hand-drawn lot layout of 816 Brooklyn Street. It's a fairly long lot with a large backyard. I'll note too that this is not a large home. It has only 916 square feet of heated area. Next slide. Here is a floor plan prepared by Mr. Bird. 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. Next slide. And then these photos, which we'll discuss, accompany the assessment that Mr. Nelson prepared and which we submitted and which should be included in your packet today. So again, from the photo here, you can see settling floor joists, which creates a floor slope within the structure today. Next slide. We have aging waistlines underneath the first floor here. Next slide. And we also have foundation wall cracks. Here, this one is shown just by the soffit and the outpouring of the gutter there. Next slide, please. And then here is a good photo of one of the leaning foundation piers within the structure. Again, I think this just speaks to the age of the existing structure and the amount of maintenance that would be required to, again, bring this smaller home into a more habitable state. Next slide. And then here, the deck itself has started to rot, as you can see there on the screen as well. That concludes our presentation for the 816 Brooklyn Street demolition request. I'll note as well, because of the common ownership, and I just wanted to get this in front of the commission, we would be looking for consistent decisions amongst 3 properties, however the decision may turn out. Again, myself, Mr. Bird, Mr. Nelson are available if you have any questions.
Before we move on, you mentioned a report that we should have. I do not see evidence of that in our packet or on the online agenda. Would you be able to give us the highlights so we have all the information?
Yes, it should have been in the, when I'm looking online, in the PDF COA-009-2022. And it was it starts on page 9 of that PDF.
Okay, the Brooklyn Street structural assessment, that element. Okay. I see it and have read it.
If you'd like me to read it into the record, I'm happy to do that.
No, it's included in the record through the application. I'm sorry, I was looking at printed version. I had read these before though. Okay. Let's see. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application?
I do have an objection on this application.
Yes. Who is this? Identify yourself.
My name is Omar Bashi,
Yes.
an attorney across the street. I'm here on behalf of Bashi Law PLLC and St. Mary's Family Dentistries, the two businesses that are located on 817 Brooklyn Street.
Mm-hmm.
We object to demolition and any approval of anything else, as any activities that could occur would detrimentally affect both of our businesses, both St. Mary's Family Dentistry and Bashi Law PLLC, as prior projects have caused numerous interruptions to our business activities, numerous multiple losses of clients, and loss of business as a result of the prior project that was on on Brooklyn Street. We have had clients have flat tires. I've had flat tires. Employees have had flat tires, and on one occasion we could not access our building because of the way the constructions were happening, and therefore we object to anything, as this demolitions will detrimentally affect us to have full access to our building. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that statement. Please understand that we have to weigh evidence received against the guidelines for changes in historic district, and those are really the elements we can use in making a decision. Is there anybody else to speak in opposition to this case? Hearing none, do we have any questions from the commission for the people who have commented or made presentations?
Travis Bailey, I have one question for the applicant.
Yes, Travis.
Given the location of these lots, as you mentioned, they're at the edge of the historic district. Are you planning to try and rezone them out of the HOD should these buildings be demolished?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bailey. That is not the intent of any future development. The intent would be to operate under the existing zoning and within the Glenwood, Brooklyn historic overlay.
Thank you for your answer.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open it for commissioner discussion. Yes, John.
I'm going to put on my professor hat for a second and probably talk longer than I should, but I have a little bit of, I have a strong concern about this, and I think these three specific cases bring it to the point. We had a scenario in this neighborhood where we, as the RHDC, had to send a demolition by neglect notice to a specific neighbor in my neighborhood who was not taking care of the house that he was taking care that he owned. That neighbor was very proactive about deciding how to proceed in that process, and has recently sold that property, which was a one-story building, less than 2,000 square feet, on a lot that was almost less than 5,000 square feet for over $600,000. This neighborhood is very, very desirable. This neighborhood is very, very historical. It is one of the, I think, 9, if not 11, historical neighborhoods that were considered to be African-American freemen at one point in time. And my issue with, and finally, to make the point, all 3 of these houses, if I'm not mistaken, are contributing to the historical nature of this neighborhood. I can't imagine, given and reading through all of the issues that I have seen on these homes that the applicant has presented, are anywhere near the issues that the house that we discussed, which is located on Glenwood Avenue, had. That specific house has much more difficulty in terms of being renovated, but it has been sold to a person or a group of people who have decided that they're going to restore it and bring it back. We have had so many developer process, so much of a developer process in this neighborhood because of its desirability to basically do what this developer and owner are requesting to do. They are asking to tear it down simply because of its location, not because of its historical value, not because of its process of being able to be repaired, because it could. And the lots on all 3 of these properties are long enough and deep enough that someone who wanted to buy those houses could renovate them as well as rehabilitate them to accommodate larger homes. Here is my mantra, and I will say this over and over again. If developers want to buy property in historic neighborhoods, they need to work with those historical properties. And they can be hysterical. And I'm sure that after this meeting, you're going to call me hysterical. And that's fine, because I really want to be, if I have to be the gadfly and the absolute wacko at himself to the historical nature of our neighborhood, then so be it. But I do not support this recommendation. I do not support these being torn down. I do not support the idea of buying up properties in historical neighborhoods and then tearing pieces down. We have got to teach developers to work with properties rather than not. I'll shut up and I'm done.
So would you say, John, that you do not find the idea of tearing this property down concurs with the guidelines? That's kind of what I was hearing. Anybody else? Sandy, do you have anything you'd like to bring up?
I do. I've been on the commission for several months, and I've sat and been rather quiet and observing. And one thing that I have noticed is that there is, like John mentioned, a great propensity for developers to want to purchase these houses that have a historical context. And this neighborhood in particular, because of the way the neighborhood was developed, has significance. And all attempts to destroy, to demolish these homes remove some of the character of the neighborhood and of the city as a whole. While I understand our limitations as a commission, I think we have to continue to raise our voices about what this is doing to the community, what it's doing to the historical context. Well, I can't speak of me personally, but it breaks my heart every time I see things like this happen. These houses are significant because of the way the neighborhood was developed, because of their vernacular architecture, because of the people who live there, because of the pride that the people who live there now are demonstrating the continuation of that neighborhood. I'm to a point now where I am very strongly opposed to demolitions, as John stated.
Travis, do you have anything you wish to add?
Sure. So I've heard many similar cases as other commissioners here where there are developers that are coming in and coming to us for permission to demolish these structures. I think it's important that we realize it's not a situation where the developers are specifically targeting historic homes. They're simply following what the market dictates. The land that these homes sit on is valuable. The area is desirable. It just happens in some cases to be a historic building occupying the lot. So I just don't want us to perpetuate this environment of developer versus neighborhood or developer versus historic preservation. It's simply a matter of the market is making it financially opportunistic to make these moves. And these historic structures happen to be one of the innocent victims in the line of fire as this is occurring. With that said, it's also important for us as a commission to recognize the limitations of our powers and tools in order to preserve these structures. And while I am adamant that, as other commissioners have stated here, we have to abide by the guidelines, which would not support issuing a demolition by neglect, not demolition by neglect. It would not support us bypassing the demolition hold. At the same time, we need to acknowledge the reality of the situation. And if we dig our heels in on every single development to try and make a public case for why none of this should be demolished, it's going to very much, people are going to start tuning us out if they haven't already. And I think we need to be a little bit more strategic with the battles that we pick, particularly when the background of the housing crisis is front and center for many folks, particularly in my age group, in the millennial age group, trying to live in our city. And I would just hate to see the news coverage of our efforts switch to we are trying to keep these buildings in place and exacerbate this housing problem rather than working with developers and trying to document these properties, because the writing is on the wall. If we don't approve the demolition permit, they're going to file for the 365-day delay. It's going to come down anyways, and we're left with nothing. If we can find ways to say, all right, look, we're not going to give you a blanket delay, but maybe we'll cut some of that 365 days off if you're willing to take a 3D rendering of the building, if you're willing to spend the extra time and money to tear out historically significant pieces of the building to preserve it for use in other structures, like my own home. I'd love to put some historical windows since a previous owner decided to just toss them all out and replace them with vinyl. That's a personal grievance, but end of the day, I'd like for us to find a middle ground where we can work with these types of situations, because again, the writing is on the wall. These houses are going to come down. We're going to end up with nothing. And if we continue to push back at them to just try and make this a public discourse of we're pushing back against all development, people are going to tune us out. With that said, I'm not inclined to vote to bypass the demolition either.
Okay. John Reese.
Travis, I hear you. But here's my concern. The housing crisis is for everybody right now. Right now, the people that live in those houses, as they are in that kind of housing crisis. Those people will be removed and left to find other conditions that may or may not be as economical as what they have right now. Now, I am not in the least bit saying that developers don't have the right to come into historic properties. My issue is if developers are going to come into historic properties, they need to work with them, not against them.
Mhm.
And if you don't want to work with them, don't buy them. My point is, with this, the reason in my head, and if the applicant wants to, if we want to close the discussion and open it up back to the public hearing for the developer to speak and clarify it, then so be it. But my assumption from this application, or from these three applications, is to combine them and create one property, and therefore build a bigger development. These specific houses have the ability to be added onto as individual properties, as individual homes that other people can buy and restore. The reference that I discussed on the Glenwood case is that it is such a small lot, it cannot be added onto. Whoever buys it whoever bought it is going to have to deal with that small lot and probably not add on to that house, but they did. This is a scenario where I feel that this is completely for profit. It is not about historical value. And while we cannot stop them from tearing it down, I will very much be on the side of holding them to the line of 365 days.
John, I'm going to stop you there. I mean, it's unfortunately what we can consider here is congruity with the guidelines. And one of the things I noted on visiting the properties and walking the neighborhood is that these properties do very much contribute to the character of the district, and specifically that part of the district. In our guidelines, when we talk about infill and massing and things like that, we're always referencing the well-related nearby properties. And one of which are historic properties within a relatively short distance of the subject property. And one of the things I noted is these three properties are consistent with the other properties that would be in that category for any kind of infill case here. So knowing that these properties are subject to the guidelines, I hope that as we go through our delay period, we're able to work with the developer and come up with some alternative to demolition that retains these properties and perhaps expands them as you suggest. But that allows us to retain the fabric of this section of this historic district. And that's really my 2 cents. Wondering, do we have any other things we wish to discuss? Do we want to open up this up again for questions, or are we ready to make a motion on this property? Commissioners? John?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we deny this application.
Let me stop you there,
I
John.
guess we can't. We can't do that. Right.
Can
I got my
with condition.
My bad. Approve with condition that we hold the owner and developer to the 365-day timeline for demolition.
Do I have a second?
Friendly amendment, the 365-day delay for demolition instead of timeline.
And do we wish to offer any other conditions?
The only other condition I would add is that they must document each of these properties, both in drawing and I think if I'm not mistaken, the staff is coming up with or has come up with a criteria for what that means. Am I incorrect about that, staff?
We'd have to reopen to ask them, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not quite sure how to make the motion, but I think that I'll do it this way, that they document the properties based on the requirements that we set forth or that RHDC staff has set forth.
okay. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment also. And it's to the conditions just to make them a little more formal. And the first being that a 365-day demolition delay be imposed with the opportunity for the commission to revisit that delay if there is new evidence that's brought forward by the applicant. That as a commission, we appoint a volunteer to help work with the applicant to avoid demolition. And 3, that the following be provided to and accepted by staff prior to demolition. It's a full documentation of the building with photographs, scaled and accurately dimensioned drawings, and B, accurately dimensioned and scaled site plan locating the house, the front yard, and the features on the site. Okay, John, I see you're accepting that with your thumbs. Do I have a second on this motion?
Second.
Sandy, seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, Sandy. All opposed? Any opposed? Okay, so I see we have 3 in favor of the motion, 1 opposed. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can I say one thing? Since we're electronic, it's necessary to have a roll call vote. And since it wasn't a unanimous decision, I think we need the names called out and how the votes.
Okay, so I will poll. Sandy Feaster, your vote?
Nay.
John Reese? If you could unmute.
Yes.
Travis Bailey?
Yes.
And I've voted in favor, so that's 3-1. Motion carries. I think we're ready to move on to the next case, which is 812 Brooklyn Street. I am going to sit here and acknowledge that the applicant and other people wishing to speak have been affirmed already in the last case, and also noting that we received a significant amount of evidence in the last case regarding the neighborhood. I would look to the applicant, Worth Mills, to speak on this case. 812 Brooklyn Street.
Yes, Acting Chair Case-Fing. Appreciate the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just, I went out of order. Let me have the staff make their presentation first. And I'm sorry for interrupting. Colette, if you could do your presentation, that way we got this framed properly.
Sure, thank you. I will do that. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
So as you mentioned, this is case COA 10-2022 for 812 Brooklyn Street, which is in the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic District. And the request is to demolish the house, remove the front walk, remove driveway, and remove front yard landscaping. This is a view of the picture from Brooklyn Street. And just like the others, we'll take a walk around. This is a view further south on Brooklyn, looking at the south facade. A view of the rear. And another. And back towards Brooklyn Street. Staff's concerns remain the same, the documentation of the structure, and the applicant provided a presentation.
Okay. Sorry, now, Worth Mills, if you could do your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair. given the discussion and the vote of the previous case, I will keep comments brief here, but again, we are requesting to demolish the existing structure and remove the existing driveway. Just a point from, or a clarification for Mr. Reese. 816 and 812 are contributing structures to the Glenwood Brooklyn HOD. 810, which was built circa 1949, is not considered a contributing structure. That is all that we have for 812.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak in support? Anybody to speak in and anything addition in opposition? Questions from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing portion and look for any discussion among commissioners. Mr. Reese. You're muted.
Sorry about that. My comments are the same.
Okay.
I would like to both add to that, though. I have a little bit of sympathy on the property that we'll probably discuss next, given that it's not a contributing structure. But I do want to also report from the neighbors that I have heard from in this neighborhood. They are vehemently opposed to tearing these homes down.
Okay.
Part of the issue beyond the points that I've made earlier is the simple waste of construction materials, because these homes were built with old growth wood. They are true 2x4 construction.
John, I'm going to interrupt you just because
sure.
it's not facts relevant to how we make our decision. I appreciate it.
I will shut up and stop it. I will stop my editorializing. I will simply report. Thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments on this property in particular?
My comments stand
Okay.
similar to the previous.
Very good. And hearing nothing else, do I have a motion? Come on, guys, one of you can do it. And I will tell you, my amendment was taking advantage of some of the notes staff offered on their comments. So if you want to use that as part of your effort, that would be great. A motion? John Reese. And you're muted again. John, you're muted.
Sorry. Can I ditto what you said on the previous case?
I think we need you to actually say it, just for the record. Open to page 3 of the staff notes, and that'll help you.
All right, thank you. Bear with me.
Of course.
And Curtis, you're given the way we have to do things now, can you start me off?
Okay, I'm thinking you're making a motion to
Yes.
approve with a delay.
All right, conditions. Okay, I didn't know if I had to say all the other stuff.
Approve with conditions and lay out the conditions. Yep.
All right. That the RHDC appoint a volunteer serve as the liaison to the property owner to assist the owner in reviewing all alternatives to demolition and or salvage opportunities during the 365 delay that I, in this motion, promote. That the following be provided to and accepted by staff prior to demolition: full documentation of the building with photographs and scaled, accurately dimensioned drawings, accurately dimensioned scaled site plan locating the house and front yard site features.
Do I have a second?
And that we impose the 365-day delay.
Second.
Second from Sandy. Any discussion? I'm just going to pull folks right out here. Sandy?
Nay.
Nay? Travis? You're muted.
I vote aye.
John?
I'm going to go with Sandy on this one. No.
Okay. And my vote would be for the motion. So John, you're voting against your motion is what I heard, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so we are 2-2. How does this work, Raz? And you're muted, yep.
You know, as your lawyer, I have to advise you that under the state statute, you all have no legal authority to refuse to issue this COA. You have the authority to impose a delay up to 365 days. But that's not just in the guidelines. That is just
That's state law.
The legislature has just simply said that cities may not prevent outright demolition of structures that are in historic districts and that they may find worthy of protection. That's just the law.
So at a tie, does the motion functionally fail, and then we need to go for another motion?
I recommend that. I mean, the mandate of the statute is that you shall not refuse to issue the permit for demolition. So obviously, if there is no action, my opinion would probably be that you have not taken action to deny the issuance of the COA. So, you could sort of debate about where this leaves us, but I think I've made it clear what the law, what the standard is that the law imposes on you here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Raz. John? Yes.
I'll amend my vote to go yay, simply to protect the property for 365 days.
And Francis or Raz, is it appropriate for us to do a new motion, or can you just amend it and we can move forward?
I think it would be cleaner to offer a substitute motion only because the motion was to approve made by John. Sandy, I think, seconded it, but then voted against the motion. So there is some confusion. I think it would be cleaner to just have a substitute motion to approve with the qualifications with what John added to its motion.
Okay. How about I take the chair's prerogative and ask Travis to make that motion, just so it's clean.
Okay, so just make the motion over again, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be approved for this application, with the suggested conditions of 1, a 365-day demolition delay be imposed. 2, an RHDC appointed volunteer serve as liaison to the property owner to assist the owner in reviewing all alternatives to demolition and or salvaging opportunities during the 365-day delay. And that documentation as provided in condition 3, A and B, is provided by the owner to RHDC staff to document the structure prior to demolition.
Do I have a second? John Reese seconds. And I'm going to do a roll call. Travis, since you're on my screen, you go first.
I vote aye.
Okay, Sandy.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. John Reese.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. So we actually have a unanimous motion on that one. And thank you all for that. John Reese. Yes.
For this case and the one previous, we did not assign someone on the commission to work with this developer and owner. How do we proceed with that?
I'd suggest we do that after the third one, since we can do all at once, if that's okay. So Colette, let's hear about 810 Brooklyn Street, case number COA 00112022.
All right, I hope you guys can see my screen.
I can.
Perfect. As you just said, this is case COA 0011-2022 for 810 Brooklyn Street. It is in the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic District. And the, actually this is incorrect. It should be this final parcel here in red as opposed to the second one in. The nature of the request is to demolish the house, remove the front walk, remove driveway and parking space, remove front yard landscaping and landscaping along Clay Street. So this is a view of the property from Brooklyn Street. Taking a step back onto Brooklyn Street with a wider view there. A view from the intersection of Brooklyn and Clay. Further down Clay Street. And again. And a view looking at the property from the rear yard. And again. Again, staff's concerns are the documentation of the structure, and the applicant did provide a presentation, which I do have ready to pull up.
Okay, and let me turn to the applicant, Worth Mills.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We request that this commission render a decision similar to that of COA-9 and COA-11. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, just to make sure for clarity, the other one you're referring to, I believe, is COA-10. The other case.
Thank you for the
correction.
correction.
Just want to make sure we were right there. Yeah, Mr. Bailey, go ahead.
I move that a certificate of appropriateness be approved for COA-0011-2022 with the following conditions. 1, that a 365-day demolition delay be imposed. 2, an RHDC appointed volunteer to serve as a liaison to the property owner to assist the owner in reviewing all alternatives to demolition and salvage opportunities during the 365-day delay. And 3, that documentation as outlined in the conditions A through B is provided to RHDC staff to document the historic structure prior to demolition.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay, Sandy, seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Very good. Well, let's try all in favor, raise your hand.
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly. So I see 4, so it is a unanimous approval of the motion. And there you all have it. Our next order of business would be to pick somebody to go and work with the owner on these 3 properties and to help avoid their demolition. Do I have any volunteers? I will volunteer. Sandy, will you do it? Okay.
I will volunteer, but I would like to ask either you or Mr. John Reese to maybe give me a little guidance as I volunteer my time.
Okay, Sandy, you're our person. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Looking at our agenda, if I can find it in the 15 screens I have open. Next up that's it for our evidentiary hearings. So we're done with the evidentiary hearings. We thank the applicants very much and look forward to working with you and hopefully retaining these properties. Any other discussion the committee wishes to have at this point? John.
One of the reasons I did not volunteer to kind of help with this case is that I already have one under my belt.
Yes.
And I have yet to receive from staff any information about how to contact that specific owner. I need that ASAP, please. Thank you.
Cool. Colette, you heard that loud and clear, I'm sure. Any other points of discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, I see a motion from Travis, seconded by John. All in favor, wave bye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.